Practice, practice, practice. If you want to get better at math, practice. If you want to get better at cricket, practice. If you want to get better at music, practice. We're always told that the best way to get better at something is to just do hard work and practice. But has it ever happened to you that you work really hard at something, practice it, like a subject like math, or a skill like music, or a sport like cricket, but then even after practicing a lot, you don't get better? Sometimes even years, you're still not making much progress. So what I want to talk about today, especially because there's so much advice to practice, 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 is answer the question, when practice does not make perfect. Now, to understand when practice does not make perfect, let's look at Virat Kohli's story. It's 2014, you're one of the best batsmen in the world, and yet you want to get better. Now, what Virat Kohli did not do is say, I'm going to practice more hours of cricket now. Went to practice, found everybody who can bowl to him and say, hey, bowl to me, and then kept playing his favorite shots more and more. And then say, hey, see, I hit a six, one more six I can hit, everybody's clapping. And he believed that he's getting better at cricket and better at being a batsman. That's not what he did. What he did do was ask, what's my biggest weakness today? And in his case, it was the outside off-stump deliveries. That's where he was getting out. And then set a goal to overcome that outside off-stump weakness. And then practiced deliberately to overcome that weakness. And that made him better. Now, the first kind of practice is what we like to call generic practice. You can do it for many hours. It feels kind of easy, but it doesn't actually make you better. What it does, it doesn't make you perfect. All it does is makes permanent what you're already good at and what you're bad at also. But this kind of practice, where you're setting a deliberate goal after finding a gap and practicing very, very specifically to overcome that gap or that weakness, is called deliberate practice that's directed towards a goal. This is effortful. It feels difficult. In fact, this would have meant that Virat Kohli spent less hours practicing than many others. But this is what actually makes you perfect. This is a lot like trying to get better at driving by just driving around randomly instead of finding out, oh, it's parking that's my weakness, and then trying to go and get better at parking. Now, while you're driving on the mountains, on the roads for many, many hours, somebody else who just practices parking for 15 minutes will get better at it, and then he'll go sleep when you're spending all these hours. So the real idea here is that when it comes to practice, what you do when you're practicing and what goal you're going towards in that time matters a lot more than the amount of hours you're putting into the practice. Now, let's say you want to get better at a subject like math. What will you do? Put your child in one more tuition center and then make them practice 100 generic problems for many hours, many of which they may know already. Or figure out the exact gap. Find a goal for them, a learning goal that suits them. And then even if it's just 5 problems that they are solving, they solve it deliberately towards this goal with feedback. This is deliberate practice. This will work way better than the other method. So remember, generic practice just makes permanent. It's deliberate practice towards a specific goal that actually makes perfect.